introduce yourself to the world.
Hey
Tell the
everybody,
world.
my name is Joey Mack. Was in the United States Marine Corps. Fun guy, love cigars, love food. What do you want to
Oh my God, that's
know?
horrible. This is a dating app. Jesus.
I'm like,
All right. Well, do you own a business?
yes, I do.
Oh, you do. What business do you own?
So the two businesses that I own is the Mobile Cigar Lounge and Bellawood Cigars. So I'm the CEO for both of them.
Okay, you own both of them 100%, or you have partners?
I have partners on both sides.
Okay, interesting. So, I mean, I've done a few different calls like this. I'm doing one with a real estate agent, which I'm going to be doing every week, actually. So we're going to cover just basic real estate topics and break it down on a weekly basis for residential home buyers. I did a separate call, which I haven't posted any yet, with a therapist who's a performance coach. And he does like hypnotherapy and things like that to help people overcome their fears and anxieties, which is going to be pretty cool. And I really for a while have wanted to have a conversation publicly about different business ideas that people can attempt, kind of to give them some kind of comfort that they can attempt something that they've never done. For most people, they get a job, and I guess starting a business is very foreign and it's very risky. In your case, you have two businesses. In my case, I have one. But even prior to owning these businesses, we both have done sales jobs, commission-based work, and I guess we've taken more risks than the average person at a young age. So I guess for the next maybe 20 or 30 minutes, my idea is that we can chat about how somebody can from scratch start a somewhat safe, low-risk business as their first business. That way they can learn the ins and outs, maybe learn how to sell a little bit. They can learn a little bit of the financial side of a business, how to get a client, and some of the things that I think we take for granted because we've learned along the way. So let's do that. Let's brainstorm a little bit about some ideas for people. That way they can build their, I guess, business IQ.
Yep.
And I mean, along the way, we'll talk about your business a little bit. We'll take some ideas from what you've done and maybe some ideas from what I've done and add value to people along the journey. Cool?
Yeah, definitely. I think
Yeah.
those are tons of great ideas. And I guess we should knock out, what kind of ideas, especially like as of right now, we're going through a pandemic, right?
Yeah.
So what kind of businesses that would have, because of human interaction and social distancing, you can't become a hairdresser right now. You can't become a barbershop. You can't own a barbershop. It's going to be a little difficult right now.
Yeah.
So what businesses can we think of that kind of eliminate where you just meet the client and then you do the work? Correct.
Yeah. Yeah. I think an easy start is always like landscaping, whereas an outdoor business. And maybe we'll use that as the focal point so we can cover how to figure out the cost, how to get a client, how to market yourself, how to execute, how to hire people. So why don't we start with that? Maybe landscaping. What do you think?
I think that's a great idea. So even with our businesses, right, doing tons of research, and there's a fine line between doing tons of research and not doing it, and tons of research and then executing it, right? So finding out, the needs. Is there a need for it? As of right now, there is a need for it just because we're trying to eliminate that kind of like being in front of that client, right? So needs, doing the research of, we're about to talk about where if you're going to fund it yourself. I mean, there's different types of funding, right? You could be taking your retirement fund. You could be getting investor. You could be taking loans out. You could be actually saving money.
Yeah, let's talk about, because that was one question that somebody had asked me a few days ago when I posted a reference about starting a business was, how do you get funding for it? And just like, I think a lot of people think they need a lot of money to start a business. And if they don't have money, I always try to give the recommendation to not go and get into debt, because the hard part is, I don't think a lot of people realize, is statistically 9 out of 10 businesses will fail. And if you're starting your first business and have never had experience as a business owner, there's a high chance that you might not have the kind of success that you're expecting. So getting in debt will just add on to the burden of that failure. So even for funding, like in a landscaping business, if you started off by yourself, like what real money do you need if you're the only employee in this business? Like let's even start with something that small, because I think a lot of people want to go big really fast.
Yep.
When they don't, like for me and you, it's very different. If we wanted to go into a business, like you have a brick and mortar now that you're starting an actual storefront, but that wasn't your first business though. Your initial business was a very low cost, low risk business that if
Correct.
you were to fail, you weren't going to have a ton of debt, which is a big burden.
Exactly.
So I think for a lot of people, that's a nice topic of conversation. So how, like in your case, how did you figure out for the mobile cigar lounge, and actually explain what the mobile cigar lounge is? Because it sounds very cool, but I don't think a lot of people are going to know what that is.
No, appreciate. So the mobile cigar lounge is, we love capturing and creating these experiences and turning them to unforgettable memories over a cigar. So what we do is we bring the cigar experience to weddings, private parties, and local events. And for us, bringing that experience and becoming memorable is such a great asset, especially when you're having these milestones like a graduation or birthday party. So for us, I did not initially start with a brick and mortar, right? I just kept everything, working from home. And this is the same applies for, say, if you want to do a landscaping business, right? Where everything I did at home, where we had to do a lot of things. Don't forget the cost of starting a business, starting an LLC. That's a couple hundred. Getting a bank account, that's a couple hundred, right? Some business accounts, you gotta have a certain amount in there.
Right. When you deposit, yeah, that was a rude awakening when you show up to the bank with $35 and you go, I want a business account, and they like, yeah.
You're like, you gotta keep
And
$8 grand in
you
there,
gotta,
or else we're gonna
or else
take
we're gonna
money out.
charge you.
So exactly, which is not a lot of people know about, right?
Yeah,
So
of course.
think about starting an LLC. It's either going to cost, depending if you do it the lawyer route or through an accountant, could cost you
Right.
between $500 to $1,500.
Right, and
And the
people can,
type,
and the
yeah,
LC they can do online themselves, which is extremely
correct,
inexpensive. But like, there's two answers to that: is you can do it yourself, and if you're very resourceful, which some people are, go online, do some reviews, do it yourself, and maybe call your cousin or uncle that's a lawyer and maybe get some free advice. Or if you're very cautious and very reserved, yeah, reach out to an attorney that focuses on business LLCs and pay them the $800 or $1,000, whatever it costs, and get a secure LLC where you're not fearing lawsuits and different implications down the road. So even that, yeah, there's money
yeah.
that for the startup. So LLC creation, the bank account. What else did you have to spend money on in the beginning? Product,
Yeah.
right?
So right, even before product, right? Marketing and branding,
Okay.
especially nowadays, right? Especially when a lot of things are mobile. Your website. I mean, these are so many factors that we could talk about. Was getting a website, having a presence on social media. As of right now, with our generation going into 20s, 30s, most look at homeowners.
Yep.
Homeowners are probably going to be in your 30s, and most homeowners are
Hmm.
going to be on the Instagram, on Facebook.
Yep.
You're not. I mean, can you advertise? Your market is not going to be 15-year-olds, 20-year-olds, correct?
Right.
Your market is going to be 30 plus.
Right, especially
So
landscaping, right? You're looking for houses or
yeah,
property managers that manage a building that has that has
correct.
maintenance that's needed to, of course. So branding and marketing, there's a cost to it, especially if you're going
Yeah,
down the route of a website. And even to that argument, you can go on like Wix or one of these sites and do your own. Or if you have a buddy of yours that is willing to do you a huge favor, I think that's always a route to go. A website, you can again pay for it, or go the inexpensive route of doing it yourself, or finding a friend that's willing to help you out, or maybe finding somebody who needs internship help, or a young college student who's willing to do work for $100 or something is a good route. Research, you mentioned research. What's research? Because I know a lot of people say you shouldn't use Google as research. Like, what would you consider research for somebody who's doing landscaping as a
so
business?
so for I mean, if you look at the SBA, we're a veteran-owned business as well. There's a tons of resources where people can help you start a business, build a business, help planning, asking the right questions, right? So if someone's trying to be resourcefulness, we used to say that every book is written about becoming successful, whether it's a successful husband or a successful entrepreneur, and just no one's reading it. So the front end work of doing the research is being able to talk to someone or go online. Listen, even YouTube is now powerful. There's tons of times where I use YouTube where something broke in the household and you YouTube how to fix it.
Right.
And it's kind of crazy how that works. So I mean, as of right now, with this phone that I'm using right now that we're both on, there's so much knowledge that we can take out of it to start your own business where you could be able to do your own LLC, do your own website. But the thing is, there has to be a lot of research done. Like you were talking about doing your own podcast, you have to go on YouTube for an hour and find out, looking up the best, find out the best YouTubers and figure out the things.
Of course.
So for the landscaping business, find out who's your competition around the area. Google, if you Google landscapers near me, who's your competition, right? If you go on Google and then you go the private set, when you can look at privately, just go on private and type in, figure out their reviews. What are they doing? How's their website look like? And try and figure out, because that's essentially what you're looking at. And you could use that as kind of like your research of how you want to base your business.
Of course. I mean, it's clever because you're not reinventing a business that's never been done, especially when it comes to landscaping. I mean, if you go outside, you'll see other landscaping companies and you can easily just look those companies up, see what services they offer, see what their prices are, or you can even just call them and let them know. I mean, you can tell them, I own a house and what does it cost to do a front yard? What does it cost to trim the weeds, to take a tree down, to trim the bushes, and take notes and easily start with some form of a foundation. From there, YouTube, of course, a lot of people don't realize, but you can probably Google YouTube how to start a landscaping business, and it's probably all there because somebody has done the work for you. So the reality is there's no excuse. That's what I have come to notice. If you wanted to start a business, there's no real excuse. A legitimate excuse. Obviously, you can make things up in your mind to prevent you from moving forward, which I think is associated with some form of fear of failure, or fear of being judged for failing by somebody else. To do is I like to figure out what the competition is charging in terms of price, because then that allows me to, as a new person, come in at a lower price point. That way I can figure out my profit margin. So that's something that I think is real valuable. And again, you can call your local companies and find out what they're charging and just undercut them by $5 or $10, depending on what the margin is. And now you have an advantage when you go knock on someone's door to get them as a client.
I mean, not for nothing. If some people could be like, "Oh, I feel weird calling my local competition." Let me tell you, call New York, and figure out what they're doing, right? Because some people might be thinking like, "Oh my God, I'm gonna call my local competition. It's gonna be weird." All right, you got Pennsylvania and you got New York.
You got Connecticut,
If you want to see what New York is charging, and then we have to be in that same range,
of course,
give or take a couple of hundred. So
that's a good point. That's a good point. But like you said, I mean, but there's a way to get the answer, because that's another question that always comes up. I mean, I don't know if you've heard. I mean, I ask you all the time, actually, how do you get your profit margin? It's very easy to figure that out in your research process, because you can make some phone calls. Again, most companies are putting their prices online, so you can also do that. Yeah. But when you're self-employed, you can really shrink your profit margin because it's just you. You're not paying anyone. You don't have that much of an overhead.
You don't have a brick and mortar, right? And that's how the mobile cigar lounge started. We didn't have to pay for a brick and mortar. A lot of those things, we didn't carry huge inventory. We kept everything low because I did the research. What do you really need, right? So if you're going to landscaping business, I'm pretty sure you don't need all these equipment. Get your essentials and then build off it, right? So have a really good focus. like, don't just, landscaping could be broken down to tons of things.
Of
Where
course.
you could be like, just
Well,
cutting the lawn,
yeah. What if somebody's
or
just mowing the lawn? They just need a lawnmower.
correct.
That's
So they
it.
just need a lawnmower, and then you go to Home Depot and you get those brown bags, so you can keep everything in, all the trimmings and stuff, and you
Right.
put it in front. So honestly, all you need is what? A pickup truck, if you already have a truck, a
Yeah.
lawnmower, and some brown bags, and a good phone to
So
take pictures with, right?
exactly. For the cost. Well, what? I mean, this is really a stretch, but what if you don't have a lawnmower or the money to get a lawnmower? Is there a way that you can start this landscaping business without one? Think outside the box here. Think
You can
how. Yeah.
borrowing.
Well, what about the look? Because I think, like I said, I feel like there's always an answer if you really try hard and think. What if?
Listen,
What if? All right. What about this? Like you're a homeowner, so am I, right? What if somebody knocks on the door and goes, "Hey, look, I'm a landscaper. I'll mow your lawn." And I'm half price compared to everyone else. The other guy charges $75. I'll do it for 30. But you have to provide the lawnmower though.
oh yeah,
I mean, I
that
have a lawnmower. It's just I don't feel like mowing my lawn. You're charging me pennies. Now you have no equipment to carry.
that's actually a pretty
I
pretty
mean,
damn good idea.
there's a
So
lot of
then you gotta get
get
you're gonna
creative.
need some you're gonna get creative, and you're also gonna need some sort of like, some pro bono lawyer work, right? Like, when you do the
Yeah,
work, you'd
if
be
you
like,
break
I'm not
their equipment, you're not
correct. Who's
liable.
you know what I'm
Who's
saying?
responsible? I like it.
Or like, taking the necessary precautions to be like, all right, come out with me, right? So I'll say, if you're the homeowner, come out with me, let's do it. I would mow like 2 feet,
Make sure it works.
make sure it works. You're looking at it.
Right.
You and I are both in an agreement that it's working. So when you get it back, it'll become in a working state.
Yeah.
So absolutely.
But there's a way. I mean, I'm trying to eliminate the excuse that
Mhm.
somebody's gonna say I don't have a pickup truck. I can't haul around a lawnmower. Maybe your marketing approach is different. Maybe now, since you don't have to make so much money to replace the cost of a lawnmower and some equipment and a pickup truck, which will cost you a couple $100 a month lease or whatever, maybe you go, hey, look, if you have one, I'll do the work, but my price is going to be so much lower that you got no choice but to go with me.
Definitely. And so think about it. Say if you charge 30 or even $40 to use a lawnmower. How much is a lawnmower nowadays? $200, let's say?
I mean, if you're gonna be doing a business, you're probably gonna buy a $400 or $500, like a bigger one. I have a big yard, so you're not gonna come here
Okay.
with a small. I mean, again, you're starting a business, so
Yeah.
I would go with 350 maybe
Okay. So
400.
350 divided by 3, that's 12. Say you have to do 12, and then you can get your own. And
Right,
then have two sides. Like, there's always a way to work up to it, where,
right.
because the professionals are probably going to have exactly the 350 that's going to have the bag in the back, that's going to make it easier for cleanup, because
Yeah.
there's lawnmowers that you get a lawnmower that
Oh,
doesn't
the old
have the
school.
bag.
Yeah.
Yeah, so now you got like, that's more time.
Yeah, yeah. Of course, of course.
So if you get the 350, now you're cutting your time, because all the trimmings are going to be inside the bag, and all you got to do is just empty it.
Right,
Now your cleanup is easier.
right.
And like the old school one, it's going to make a huge mess.
Of course.
And that's going to
But I
leave
mean,
like an extra.
but the old school ones will cost you. But again, there's a way. Like I said, there's
There's a
always a
way.
way to do it.
Correct.
And this is a conversation that happens all the time. It's like, oh, this person had an advantage because they had the money. Maybe that doesn't mean you can't start smaller, save all your profit to then go purchase, go purchase the better equipment to be more efficient. But you
Yeah.
can still go do it.
And I believe that everyone's journey is totally different. Are you talking to the guy that has a full-time job that wants to create one? He could do it on the weekends and save up money for what he's doing. Or
Oh,
is
of
this a
course.
kid? Or is this a high school student that has an entrepreneur mindset?
Mm,
I mean, he could do it in the evening and
dude,
just kill it.
I'm a huge fan of the weekend business. A
Oh
huge
yeah,
fan. Like most people, I think we've had this conversation a lot. Most people really aren't built to be just an entrepreneur 100%, meaning you have no other source of income. It is risky. I mean, aside from pandemic or not, it's always a risk, and some people aren't built for that, which is fine. But if you're working your full-time job and there's something missing, maybe financially, or just some kind of satisfaction you want to get from developing different skills, a weekend business is 100% the way to go. And in your case, like you just mentioned, if you're a parent with a teenager, a landscaping business is perfect because it doesn't require a high level of skill. It doesn't require a degree, doesn't require a master's degree, doesn't require a high level of intelligence. Really, the skill sets I think you have to develop is marketing and branding and communication, because you're going to sell yourself to someone who doesn't know you. So even if you don't have the skill set to do a great website, you can knock on people's door. There's, I mean, 6 feet right now. So you have to knock and step back a couple feet. But even that, you don't need really the techie side in the beginning, at least, to go grab some clients.
100%. I think right. Listen, if I was a high school kid with the sort of like knowledge I have now, imagine starting a business where you hire your friends, and then in your long term, you hire high school students, you get them off the streets, and they're making an income. So now, if you came to my door and said, "Hey, we're this company," or like, I see you on Facebook or social media where you're hiring high school students to, one, keep them off the streets, two, to mentor them, and three, you're paying them a good wage, right? Like say even $15, right? But they're working hard and they're learning something. I think that's a great business. And now you're adding value to it. I don't see why if you live in your local community that you're not, that if someone came up to you and you're like, hey, you're helping local kids stay off the streets and learn something, and now they're becoming part of the community. I mean, who would say no to that? Yeah.
100%. I mean, marketing wise and branding wise, it's genius. Why won't people do it? I don't know. I'm too lazy. No, but you're absolutely right. I mean, part of marketing is having a strategy, and that's a phenomenal strategy. If you just hired, I mean, you're not just going to hire high school kids. You might hire, for every adult, they can work with 2 high school kids. That way they have some kind of adult supervision. But you're absolutely right. If somebody knocked on my door, 2 different people, one with that approach, we hire high school kids to teach them business skills and to teach them, the value of money. And then another person knocks on my door and just says, I'm a landscaper, can I get your business? Even if they charge the same amount, even if the price wasn't different, I'm probably going to go, you know what? I want these kids to have a great opportunity to learn something. So even 100%. That, part of the research, I mean, that goes into and really that goes into research and brainstorming. One of the things that I wanted to do was brainstorm random ideas, because I feel like it's a lost art. Like in school, you're taught to just work by yourself, get your grade, and you can't cheat off someone. Brainstorming is cheating. That's really what it is. It's like, it's give me your ideas, let me give you mine, and hopefully we can walk away with value. It's not allowed in school. It's frowned upon. Go figure. It's actually one of the best ways for anyone in business is to brainstorm, which is exactly what we're doing. So I think that's the best approach. To try to have some kind of uniqueness differentiating you from the competition.
Correct. And that's kind of like that differential factor of what separates you from your competition, which is going to be a key component. And you just gave a good example. If 2 people came to my door, one was a gentleman that had landscaping business A, and someone with B, and someone with B actually gave the restorer, hey, listen, we hire local high school students, and they'll, and like you said, 2 of them will be here. We're at the same price, but, we're giving back to the local community. I'm pretty sure I'm going with the local community one.
Right. Even not at 100%, but 9 out of 10 times you're gonna get someone who's gonna just be empathetic towards that, and for that reason alone might become your client.
So let's walk through that process. They both come in. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to Google both companies.
Very true.
So right, 3 out of 4. So knowing statistics, 3 out of 4 people Google something before they buy. So now the thing about what we do in a normal,
dude, I'm Googling both of them while they're talking to me.
Yeah, I'm like,
dude, right as they're talking,
I'm like, I'm gonna look at your business. You wait the second you hand me your business card, I'm gonna go. And if you have a Facebook, let me tell you, if you have a Facebook presence, if you have an Instagram presence, and you
I'm
have a good
finding it out within
website,
minutes.
I am a higher, because think about this. Um, uh, Damon John talked about this. Seven, 8, 9 times a client has to see your brand to finally buy.
Right.
So when you walk up to my door, that's 1. I look at your Facebook, that's 2. Oh, you have an Instagram, that's 3. I'm looking at your social media, that's 4. You shoot me an email,
5.
My chances of buying. That's why in today's age, the whole, social media and marketing, it's a huge thing, because you got to touch people multiple times. Those times of no one comes. The minute you see a salesman walk up to your door, the client wants to get out.
They're gonna say no. Oh, all day.
Yeah.
The first time but that's sales in general. It's one of the sales techniques is you want to get in front of somebody's face multiple times, and you're right. The more you can, which is why branding is so important. So even if you've been branding yourself on Facebook, like I don't think enough people realize Facebook, Instagram, even LinkedIn, you can pay for specific ads by demographics. So I'm in Montclair. If I'm starting this landscaping business, I am looking up Montclair's demographic and I'm marketing to 35 to 55. And by the time I knock on their door, it's probably come up in their Facebook feed who the company is. So technically that knock on the door might be your second visit. But they're going, oh, you're the guy who hires teenagers from the high school. And now you're just right. And you might even be able to name drop at that point. Yeah, the captain of the football team is one of our landscapers, and now they're like, oh wow, it's pretty cool. Right. So you're absolutely right. The full strategy that Damon John talked about and that you're talking about right now, well, you're executing that in the mobile cigar lounge because you're on Instagram smoking up a storm. I mean,
yeah, and that's what's funny. So here's a cool little trick, right? Someone told me this. Actually, it was Gary Vee. I was listening to one of his podcasts. He goes, listen, use content that you did a year or 2 years ago, and you put something different. You'll be amazed of how many people commented back. So I've been using content from this is but the thing is, for us doing events right now, we can't get this new content. There's no weddings going on.
Right. So right now you guys, you're not doing any weddings or PBA events or anything until further notice, technically.
Yeah. Okay. As of right now, in end of April, right. Totally not.
But I've seen you post every day as if you've done several new events.
Correct. And I love going to events where or wedding expos.
Yeah.
And someone comes up to me, a couple, and they go, "Oh, I follow you on Facebook."
That's huge.
Or I follow you on Instagram. And I go, in my head, the first thing I do is always thank our supporters, right? Because without supporters, without people following you, there wouldn't be no business. And the first thing I thank them, and 2, it's like, oh my goodness, thank you so much for your support. And they always say, yeah, we're definitely going to book you. Going back to why we purchased a CRM, customer relationship managers, we're touching base every time.
Yeah. But you didn't have the CRM in the beginning.
No.
Right.
Because I found what was going on with our business, right? We touch a client once at a wedding expo. I send one, so twice. I see them at the wedding expo.
You met them in
person.
And
then I shoot them an email.
And then they got an email. Okay. And that was it. If they didn't book you.
And this is like maybes. Like, did they go on our Facebook? Let's go on our social media. Okay. Now that we have a CRM, you get emails, social media that points us to our social media. We're sending you video. We're sending you content, just to get in your face. And obviously, they could opt out of all that stuff, but it's getting in front of the client and just being out there.
Right. Now, did you not get the CRM in the beginning because of the cost, or you just weren't aware that was such an impactful?
Wasn't aware. I wasn't aware of how much impactful it is. Right. Something that's great about business, you're always learning.
Yeah.
And like the resources, I took a business course for veterans for VLV, Veterans Launching Ventures, in Fairleigh Dickinson University. Mm-hmm. I'm right now part of an EPI group from Rutgers Business. Mm-hmm. I'm continuously. I took that Damon John business class. I'm continuously learning. Going back to there's so many books written about becoming successful. So no one's reading them.
Right.
There's so much free content out there.
Of course. I mean, for the non-reader, there's YouTube, there's videos,
There's YouTube.
there's podcasts. For the person who's ebook. I mean, you can audiobooks if you're not into reading. So the answers are there. It's not a lack of information. Again, I always attribute it back to fear, some form of fear, or lack of I want to say lack of knowledge, but really you're fearful to not look into it, or you're just afraid of being judged by because you failed by not having the CRM. I usually see that as, man, I failed. It's a mini failure, but those failures are always rectified if you're alert and you're paying attention. I think too many people are anticipating a failure, and that scares them. And then they just don't move forward at all with even attempting to start the business because of a potential failure that might come up down the road.
Well, listen, that's why I reach out to my competition. That word, failing forward. I think that's a good term. Where, listen, we've made mistakes, we've lost money because of mistakes that we've made, but I bet you if I didn't do my research, you would have lost a lot more money, a lot more of your time. But doing that research is very, very important.
Well, clearly, the other aspect is, had you not adjusted after doing that research, you would have failed miserably. Because what happens, I think, a lot of times is, even in landscaping, if you go to your client and you offer your service and you get feedback from your client, and they maybe say something like, hey, after you cut my grass, there was a few patches you missed. You can walk away and just go, whatever, the client doesn't know what he's talking about. Or you can walk away going, okay, what did I do wrong to have missed those patches of grass? And those two perspectives, you clearly saw that the CRM was a need and you purchased it. A lot of times you'll get business owners that go, oh, I'm not going to touch that. Getting a CRM is going to cost me money. I'm not making that much money yet. And they won't purchase it. And then a year later, their business folds and they go, oh, business is risky. As opposed to going, you should have adjusted a little bit faster when you saw that you had to. So that's one of the big attributes of being a business owner.
And you're absolutely right. And I learned this from a musician, right? Either in front of one or in front of 10,000. So he talked about giving all you got in your performance in front of one person, just as though you were in front of 10,000 people. So when you talk about that patches of grass, how are you rectifying that? Are you going back to be like, hey, listen, let me take care of it, totally apologize, or are you just leaving it there and
are you dismissing it?
Clients, correct.
Right.
So are you putting your best foot forward as if a performer, even if you're playing for one person
right,
on the stage,
are you playing as if the whole place is packed out?
Correct.
Of course.
So I think that's an important factor of, going back to, I think you have to be true to yourself. Are you going what's your commitment? Be true to yourself of how much you're going to be committed to this business. Is this going to be a business that you're actually going to build, or is this going to be like a part-time business, which is like fun money?
Right. Which either one is fine. I mean, there's I think people have to accept which one they want and which one they're willing to put time into. Because if somebody says, hey, I want this thing to retire me, but I only want to work it on the weekends.
Nope.
Just accept the fact that you're only going to work at weekends, and these are the results that will provide, and be happy with that.
Yeah.
Or start it on the weekends and expand it to be your full time, but understand, you're going to be doing maybe a 70-hour week.
Correct.
To retire yourself.
100%, man. So being true to yourself is a big component, and finding out your commitment level, and being exactly what you said. I'm starting a weekend business. To what? Retire you? Or I'm going... Or just... Listen, there's businesses where people flip Pokemon cards.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
is that that's one of your side businesses?
That's one of my side businesses.
You're indirectly trying to tell me.
hey. So guys, just a little promo. I got these cards.
Who wants to sign up?
Who wants to sign up? Just quick right here. But exactly it.
But they're flipping Pokemon cards and they love it. So
yeah, but that's your commitment level. Are you going to do it as a hobby? Because if you do it as a hobby, or if you do it as a business, I think there's two different things. Because either way, there's going to be some level of time commitment.
Correct.
On both parts. So being true to yourself, I know the fear has a play factor. After before you take that initial pull, you gotta be true to yourself and be like,
you have to know, right?
okay,
Self-awareness is massive. It's so important. I mean, like if I was going to start a cigar business, I'm going to fail because I don't smoke cigars. Like it's just, I don't have the passion, you know what I mean? And I have to know that. And I think that's where, you know, a lot of the conversation, I mean, we pick a landscaping business just to eliminate a lot of the excuses for cost, skill set. But if there's no passion there, you can start the landscaping business because there's no risk maybe to learn some of the skill sets that a business owner has to have. But if you're not going to be passionate about landscape design, landscape architecture, you know, really providing a great service to your client, it might just be something that makes you a couple $100 here and there, but it might not be a long sustainable business. So even that, like, but you know, I think sometimes people think the first business is they have to do it because they're passionate about it. I feel like you have to go into several different businesses to find that passion too. Again, I mean, we bounce around in different things. I did real estate. I did different financial sales. I worked as a sales rep for a restaurant company. I flipped my own house. You know, I've worked in a warehouse. I've done so many different things that by the time I run the company I have now, I'm running it with confidence that I know what I want. The first time I did a job that required commission sales, I didn't know what the hell I was doing, and I didn't know if I was excited about it or not. And going into your first business, I think has that same. You have to just go into a business, be okay with the fact that you might not succeed, and you might make money and still fail. I think that's you know, in this kind of a business landscaping, you might make money for 6 months and then run out of clients because you didn't know how to get referrals. So now you learn something. Now you learn the value of asking your clients for referrals, or maybe you didn't follow up, right, touching the client 6 times. You know, all of these things happen, and which is why I say for the person who wants to try a business and go low risk, landscaping is perfect. There's also you know, I just posted the other day a mobile auto detailing business. You know, people get the inside of their cars cleaned. Can you put that equipment inside a minivan and drive to people's houses and do it for them? Now you're eliminating the inconvenience of driving to a location. You know, you're outside cleaning their car, so you don't have to physically touch anyone, you know, because of Corona. Obviously, we want to make sure that that's a business you can start right away. And the cost is going to be relatively low because you're buying equipment, you know, to clean cars, which I'm sure is powered vacuums and certain things. So it's not a high cost business. You know, I think what was the other business I mentioned that was low cost? I mean, anything that has consulting. If you're an artist or graphic designer, you can obviously branch out on your own. But I feel like every attempt, you know, the statistic is out of 10 businesses, 9 are going to fail. Same thing happens for one person. Attempt 10. Whether the attempt is a 30-day attempt or a 1-year attempt, go for 10. And out of there, you're going to have one that's successful. And you'll find passion inside the business. You know, I think some people think if I'm passionate about cooking, I need to own a restaurant and be a chef. Maybe not necessarily. You know, you might go into a different business and realize it's not necessarily the cooking that you love. Maybe it's the structure, because you're a structured chef. There's something within the business that you'll fall in love with. For me, I own a mental health agency and I'm not a therapist, but I'm excited about it because I get to obviously orchestrate I get to run it as an executive director, and I'm good at juggling a lot of different things. But I'm not a therapist, so it's weird in that aspect. So I think that's a big point that people need to realize. You don't have to necessarily be super passionate about the initial business right in the beginning, about the product, I should say, that you're selling. That's not always the case.
And I think exactly, you're just hitting on it. Finding attributes that are your strengths and using that to help your business, right? So if you're a really good talkative person, you know, being able to be in front of someone doing your sales might be an easy gig. Managing a team, sometimes you have to learn these things, right? To get clients, you have to talk to people. So if you're an introvert, it might be a little bit difficult, but you have to get through that curve of being able to talk to somebody, or it's going to be a lot of energy. So going back to being true to yourself and how much you're going to commit to this business is, you're going to be learning a lot about not only the business, but about yourself as well.
By yourself, of course. Like, you know, and you mentioned Gary Vee earlier, his whole thing is self-awareness. His whole pitch is know yourself, your strengths, your weaknesses, double down on your strengths, and hire someone else to focus on the areas where you're weak, and don't spend any time and energy. And I think we do that as business owners almost naturally. We hyper focus on things we're great at because it's fun. And then
Right.
if you don't have partners, or if you're not aware that you're dismissing some of the weaker sides of your business, you can struggle.
Right.
Which again, I encourage anyone who wants to go into business, go extremely low risk, low cost in the beginning, especially for your first time,
Yep.
to allow yourself to develop the self-awareness with lower risk. If you have some experience, if you have business partners that have experience, you can go and take more risks because the experienced partners are obviously going to guide you and teach you. And again, you mentioning you have partners in both businesses is probably a big reason why you're so knowledgeable so fast as a business owner. You
Right.
had the business, a year and a half, maybe?
Yeah, year and a half. Yep.
A year and a half, right. But
And
the amount of
you're
knowledge in the year and a half, because of all the partners between the two businesses, seems like you've been doing this a lot longer.
yeah.
And
And
you can hear
I
it.
always take that as a compliment, as when they're like, "Oh, you've only been, when we were just like less than like 6 months in."
Yeah.
Like, "Oh, you've been around?"
Six-
Oh, yeah, we have 6 months.
Yeah. And like I said, that's attributed to that same. I mean, I've had business 5 years, but I constantly am, and if you notice, I'm always asking questions. I'm always surrounding myself from people who have businesses longer term in different industries, not just necessarily mental health. And I'm always trying to read something or learn something new. And like I
So,
said,
I mean,
go ahead.
that's something that's very important that you said as well, because I get this question asked all the time of like, what can you tell veterans about starting a business? So this is the same here applies. One is, what you just said, always asking questions. So for us, it's being that private, and you're looking up to people and you're asking questions, which essentially means too, you have to put your ego in your back pocket, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's people that've been around, whether their business successful or have not, been around the block, and their experience is out there.
Right.
So being able to, what you said was very important, asking questions. And with this thing that I'm on right now called the cell phone, you could ask these questions on Google and have them all appear up, right?
Answered. So, right. And if you don't, like, I know some people are hesitant to take Google at its word. Go on Facebook, go on Instagram, and ask the question to your general friends. Or if you want a question that's specific to an industry, ask your friends for someone in that industry that they might know, if you wanted to, and maybe make that connection. I mean, the other aspect is, Twitter and Instagram, you can direct message anyone you want. Like, if you wanted to, like, if somebody right now is listening and goes, I want to get into the cigar business, they can send you a direct message, and you might or might not respond, but they can go and look up 100 people that are in the cigar business, owners, and send everyone a message, and maybe, one or two respond. So again, not knowing the answer, I feel like that 20 years ago might have been hold a little bit more weight.
Yes. And
right now,
there's no, I think in today's age, there's no reason.
Right.
Join a Facebook group. They have Facebook group for people that dress up as cats. Nothing wrong with that. But there's different Facebook groups everywhere.
Yeah, I don't know. The fact that that there's a Facebook group for people that dress up as cats, it's a little alarming. But I might edit that part out.
Yeah, no worries. But okay, there's different Facebook groups for different types of businesses. There could be an association for landscapers. There could be an association for mental health. Of course, there's people.
So you sign up, and you sign up, and even if you don't know what to ask, you just listen.
Correct.
And you look for. I mean, I always tell people, when you're looking for a business, you're really looking to solve a problem. So if you're doing landscaping, if you're doing cigars, if you're looking to get into mental health, just even if you're not ready to start the business, and you say, you know what, I'm going to start in 3 months or in 6 months, sign up to these groups and just listen for 3 months.
100%.
Listen to the problem, and that's where you can figure out a good starting point for your business. Because not everyone is ready to solve a problem. I mean, you solved the problem with the mobile cigar lounge, that you were bringing cigars to the event so people didn't have to go to the brick and mortar, to the storefront. So you had a solution right away. And then, I mean, obviously, if anyone goes to your website or to your Instagram page, they'll see how extravagant you guys bring this event. It's not just a rinky dink, here's some cigars. You guys really put on a show. You went as far as going to learn how to roll cigars for, you spent a whole week. So, I mean, you really got into your craft, but you're solving a problem. You know, I think a lot of people have to also look at that and sit back and go, you have to be observant to what the problem is. Because if all of my neighbors, you know, are using a landscaper and I chat with them and they're all happy and I start a landscaping company, I can't assume that they're going to switch over because they're my neighbors to my company. If they're all satisfied and I'm not really solving any problem, you know, they're not my client. So really, again, even with the landscape, you go on a Facebook group and or, you know, sign up. Like Montclair has Montclair, like water cooler Facebook group, Montclair mommies and daddies, Montclair, like every town has a bunch of subgroups for the town. You can sign up and you'll see people. And Montclair, a lot of people are frustrated because people use gas leaf blowers. So if I, yeah, I know it's Montclair, like it's aggravating to a lot of people. So did you just well, so but think about this though, solving a problem. If I'm in a Facebook group with Montclair and I realize that people are frustrated, are you unmuting me on purpose?
No. I don't know what's going on.
If I realize that people are frustrated because of gas leaf blowers, and they're mostly companies that have it, and I'm going to start landscaping in this area, I am going to do my best to get electric powered, battery powered leaf blowers and market myself as the eco-friendly, green, you know, person because I'm solving a problem. So it's that awareness to the industry you're trying to get into is massive. So even for the person that wants to go into being a chef, you know, putting up a restaurant in the midst of COVID is not you know, you can do it, but right now, thinking outside the box, food trucks, a cooking channel. I was talking to somebody who said, oh, my husband wants to do a restaurant. And I was like, why doesn't he start a cooking show on YouTube? And I know people already have done it, but his audience, right, friends, family, and the people following him on social media know nothing about him being a chef because he's in a different industry. I was like, for the next 6 months, why doesn't he cook lunch for parents that are home with their kids, a twist on mac and cheese, how to make homemade chicken nuggets, and just take all the things parents are having to cook for their kids and go on Facebook, you know, live, on Instagram, on IGTV, and do a cooking show every day right before lunch. Because parents usually don't cook lunch for their kids because the kids are in school. So I was like, now you're taking a problem and solving it within cooking that almost no one's doing. I don't know why I don't see restaurant owners doing this because their restaurants are closed. Why aren't they cooking on TV, on Facebook Live or on Instagram Live to capture an audience that when things go back to normal, now you can have your brick and mortar really busy, thriving, which is exactly what you did. You had the mobile cigar lounge. A year later, you're putting up a brick and mortar, taking all that audience that already followed you and funneling them into your storefront. You know, again, a lot of it, I think we take for granted the experience we've built, but a lot of it requires brainstorming because I might have ideas or you might have ideas that might be a little outside the box, or with your experience, you might be able to tie it into a full solution.
So a good website, you were talking about answering some questions. I use a website called alsoasked.com. So ask, ASKED. So when you type in something, if you go and also ask, so for me, you know, I did a cigar bar wedding, and it gives you what people are asking on the internet. Because I'm writing articles Wednesday for NewJerseyWedding.com. So one of the questions is, thank you. So it's one of those things where, you know, what happens with the cigar bar? Answer questions like, for example, you know, for chefs, like find out like home cooking. What is the number one question that a lot of people are asking and Googling? So if you go and also ask when you type it in, like how to start home cooking, you're gonna get like questions, and then you can answer them. And so you don't even have to think about these questions. You can just think of, okay, home cook. Type it in. What are people asking about home cooking? Home cooking during the COVID, you know, home cooking with not a lot of ingredients, with 4 or 5 ingredients.
Right. So the questions are already there.
Correct. So it's questions that generate, you know, much smarter than we are of what people are asking on Google. So exactly what I said with my business.
There's answers. Yeah, there's answers.
There's questions, and then
there's
you
even
just
there's even
the
questions.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
The question is, you just answer it because that's what people are Googling. So
right.
with the whole algorithm, that people could see you popping up now, right? What's the number one question about what cooks are doing right now?
Yeah, that I'm
Home
telling
cooking
you.
in a cooking with kids at home, cooking with a busy schedule,
So
cooking
even,
while working.
the crazy part is even for the person that's not extremely creative, or doesn't think outside the box, there's websites that do it for you. Like you don't even,
Correct.
yeah.
Yeah.
So again, look, this is, this conversation is not for the person there's people that are happy at their job. There's people that are extremely satisfied with having a job and being an employee. And I'm sometimes kind of envious of that because you go to work, you do your job, you're set salary, you get vacation, everything's pretty set up for you. And then there's also the person who has that and wants a little bit more. And that's what the conversation is for. It's not to judge the person who doesn't, like, not everyone wants business. That's fine.
100%. Yeah.
But there's people that have questions and maybe haven't had a genuine Q&A or a genuine brainstorm session or the ability to have an idea evolve, kind of from start to finish. And I mean, obviously there's so many topics that we kind of are really touching on because they're a little bit deeper and more complex, like branding. I mean, there's a lot that you can talk about: social media, how to brand properly, especially when you're paying for Facebook ads. I mean, it's an extremely long conversation that I think we can have over time, but hopefully this helps. I mean, we can do this more than once. Hopefully, if there's questions, we'll get back to people maybe through another Zoom with specific questions to specific scenarios that people have. That'd be pretty cool as well.
Yeah, definitely.
You
But
know,
I know we talked a lot in terms of, and you're saying different subjects. Start small, start doing your
start
research,
small
doing those baby steps.
all day. I
Yeah.
think starting
Yeah.
small is, even if you just start researching and asking. I think one of the biggest things that has made me commit to different businesses or different ideas is when I find somebody in that field and ask them questions.
Correct.
Because at that point, you're committing and you're getting direct answers. So even in your own mind, if there's a fear and that person answered it for you and they've done it already, you really logically have gotten at least the answer you were looking for from a direct source. So
Yeah.
even that much, like if somebody, again, wants to go into cigar business, they need to reach out to you and ask you at least one question, because I'm sure you'll hold them to it. If they told you I want to start a business, I'm sure you're going to go, yeah.
100%. And because how I started my business, I ask tons of questions. So I always give back when people are asking, how do I start a business, or how do you do this? Or if even someone came up to me and wanted to start a cigar business, I've had multiple people reach out to me through Instagram and Facebook. I give back because someone gave back to me. And
Right.
so if anyone
Of
wants to
course.
reach out to me, I'm sure you'll put down my
Yeah.
contact information
I'll
and
put
stuff.
your, I'll put at the end of this, let me know if you want me to put your email or maybe I'll put your Instagram tag, your Facebook stuff so they can reach out. And we'll see. I mean, I hope people have questions, because the reality is we're coming up with a random idea to brainstorm off of. If somebody is trying to start a business, whatever kind of business it is, and you're kind of hesitant or you're slightly fearful or just want to bounce some ideas, we can even do a Zoom 3-way. We can get another person on the screen to ask some questions and we'll try to give them some tips. That'll be pretty fun, I think.
Yeah, that would be totally fun. Um, if you get I would love to see some students right now, because what are they doing right now? They're at home. If we get some students that could talk about starting a business or some kind of entrepreneurial spirit, I would love to ask questions. Totally, because this is